So it's mid-November, and honestly, very difficult to make videos. It's windy, cold, most of the wild edibles are gone for the season. Most of the poisonous plants are also gone. And the sun has decided that it doesn't want to stay around for much long after about 4 p.m. In fact, around here, I'd actually probably figure it's one of the hardest times to survive if you know what you're doing. Obviously, the dead of winter is really rough too, but there are a couple reasons why mid-November might be at least equally as dangerous. First of all, sun and wind. The sun decides to leave at around 4:30, which means you have a limited amount of daylight hours, and the nights are cold, well below freezing. And the wind too, wind chill is probably well below freezing as well. So even though it might be low 40s, you can still get hypothermia pretty quickly, and frostbite and stuff like that. Especially if you were to go and get your feet wet or touch that water over there. That could bring your core temperature down and temperature of your extremities down quite a bit. Wild edibles are pretty much the same as in the winter. Rose hips, whatever's left, some field garlic, maybe you could find some cattails. And unfortunately, because calorie expenditure is a lot higher in the winter and wild edibles are less available, you would probably have to hunt or fish, which might be a problem for some people, and it's certainly an extra activity that has a chance of failure. So it could be a little more difficult in that way. The main difference from the winter is that there's no snow on the ground, which is both a pro and a con. First, it's a pro because it's easier to move about when there's no snow versus when there is snow. Especially deep snow will slow you down quite a bit and could cause your feet to get soaked with water and cool down and drop your core temperature if you're not as prepared. Also, without snow, it's a lot easier to find field garlic and other wild edibles that might still be hanging around on the forest floor. It's a con because snow is actually a pretty useful survival resource. You can use it to build shelter, and you can use it as a source of water, not by eating it directly. That's a bad idea in a survival situation because you'll drop your core temperature down. But if you can melt it in, say, a fire, like in a pot, that will give you some pretty potable drinking water. Whereas in mid-November, when there's no snow around, or in the winter if there's no snow around, you'd have to get your water from, say, a stream like this, and that gives you a higher chance of getting sick from it. Ideally, if you've properly boiled or purified your water, this isn't an issue, but sometimes stuff happens and maybe you didn't boil your water for long enough and it could make you sick. I'm sure I'll get into these topics way more in depth in the winter, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, hope you all enjoyed. See ya.